Yeah, buddy. But look, last week we focused on the offense. We talked about the quarterback for a while. We talked about the running back, wide receiver, tight end, and offensive line. This week, we're going to focus on the defense. And the position that coming into the season, we all said was our strength of the team. This was going to be the thing that was going to hold us down. We did not have to worry about it. Well, that became one of the holes on the team. So let's just break this thing down and start right here. D-line,
yeah,
you know. But what they say, breaking the tag team sack record, was that 48 sacks?
They got close.
Yeah.
They got close.
Yeah.
You know, just a shade about 40 on, to go, and then they would have gotten there. Yeah.
They could have done it. Ridiculous, man.
But right before we get into the D-line, I got to do this because ever since I put my notes together on Sunday, this has been going through my head the entire time, man. This is me walking around the world. In my head's going, defense. Defense. Because I've been hyped to talk about this. This is why we call this football therapy.
Exactly, man. This is the connection we have, especially in this time when you just keep flicking through channels.
Right.
Like, come on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, hey, I mean, look, this was our strength. This was supposed to be our strength. We already have Montez Sweat, and I mean, I want to get into that, but just naming it, we have the Montez Sweat, Chase Young. We want to make sure he gets healthy, gets back on the field. Really looking for a dominant comeback year, maybe even hints at comeback player of the year, because his energy, just his whole mindset, he's going to be ready to go. We got Ioannidis in there. We got Jonathan Allen in there. Daron Payne is somebody that everybody's been talking about. Do we need to re-sign him? What direction? And a lot of people also talking when we were talking about the Russell Wilson trade. He was one of those expendable pieces where we could have been like, this is the piece to go. So seeing the additions and the kind of help and back and forth in and out of the Shaka Tonys, Bradley Williams, these guys have been doing enough. We've got Settle still in there. It's time to make some decisions. There's some guys coming up from the draft that maybe we could take a look at. Maybe not here as much as in some of the other positions on defense, but this is somewhere where I felt confident a year ago, and now I don't feel as confident. Where do we go from here, Will?
Dude, you said it perfect right there. We felt so confident going into the season. And on paper, Young, Sweat on the outside, Payne, Allen, Ioannidis on the inside, put them up against anybody.
Yeah.
And something went wrong last season. And like you said, I'm worried from a coaching standpoint, from a scheme standpoint, and I'm worried from a cohesion standpoint.
Yes.
Because there's something on the same page. There was from a coaching standpoint, there was a lot of let me just do 4-man rushes. My 4 guys can beat yours and we'll be fine. And they did not get there. That did not work. And I don't think we did enough changing up of the scheme until our 2 DNs went out injured, and he had to get creative and do a lot more blitzing and bring in linebackers and stuff. And the defensive line, the whole defense in itself played better. But why did it take guys getting hurt to change your philosophy, Jack Del Rio? Where were these adjustments, during the first 4 games, the first 6 games, and then Chase got hurt. I think on week 8, 9, 10, something like that. I'm a little bit concerned about 2 things. I'm really wondering with our defensive ends, Young and Sweat, whether they are meshing with Ron and Jack Del Rio. Because 2 things happen. The first one is Montez Sweat. All season long, we kept hearing Ron talk about discipline. And he's like, we got to be playing discipline. We got to play with maturity out there. We got to – and everyone thought it was Chase Young. Well, when Montez Sweat got hurt and we had Casey Toohill and James Smith-Williams starting for us, although that talk about discipline went away, and Montez Sweat came back in the Eagles game. He made an impact. He had a sack strip that we returned, But after that game, Ron talked about discipline. And once again, it's like, I'm wondering if Montez Sweat's not playing within their scheme. All right. Now you move on to Chase Young. And at the end of this offseason here, just recently, Ron made some comments saying that he wants Chase Young to play more physical. That last year he felt he tried to go a little bit too finesse. Yeah. And he's like, he's big, he's strong, he's fast. He needs to be more physical with his moves. Well, Chase Young came out and said, well, there's a time to be physical and a time for finesse. And I'm going to mesh them both. And that's now two times where it's like, I'm a little concerned that we have these, elite talent, but it's not meshing with what the coaches want. And what do we do? How, because there was a difference in how they played when Young and Sweat were gone. Yeah. Tell me why Casey Toohill is out there making plays and reading the defense and backing up into play and putting his arm out so the quarterback throws wide. And it was against the Raiders. He had a key play that Cam Curl came up and made the stop. And it's all because the quarterback had to throw outside. The receiver lost his momentum. Cam Curl made the tackle. We beat the Raiders. That's Casey Toohill playing within what Ron and Jack Del Rio want. But I don't want Casey Toohill out there every single snap.
No.
So scheme wise, I think from a player standpoint, we got to look at this. But Ron and Jack need to be figuring something out within how are you going to use some of this talent that we see on paper to do better in 2022.
Oh yeah, and then that's the thing. Honestly, with Chase Young and all that, it's time to pay the piper. Right now is the time you get healthy, get everything back on. If you think your way works, then show and prove. Because what we saw this past year was not it. And I'm talking before the injury. And as far as Montez Sweat and having him back, I'm glad to have him back. But I think there is a disconnect. There is something that's off between them and the coaches where it's almost like a situation where they're on the island and we can do it ourselves. And it's like, we don't need that. You know what I mean? And you talked about when Casey Toohill came in. When those guys came in, it's kind of like, do your job. You know what I mean? And we have two LTs on the side, I'm just going to rush. I'm just going to rush at all costs. You know what I mean? That's the type of stuff. But look, even with all of that and those two guys, the one thing that we can never, ever, ever have to worry about, Jonathan Allen. He's the rock. He's the spokesperson for the team. We see that. He's balling out inside. I don't know if I can say the same for Daron Payne. We've talked about that. You know what I mean? He, in a lot of those mock trades, he was one of the expendable pieces, like I alluded to earlier. Should we try to make a move to keep him?
I don't necessarily think so. Yeah. But it kind of sounds like we are. I'm with you where, Allen shows up. Now, he shows up a little more in the stats, okay? Yeah. And so that's easy to kind of see making plays. But I think he also shows up at just how many times is he in the quarterback's face? Whether he's getting the sack or not, just kind of disrupting the play, And Allen had a huge year. He's totally worth the $70 million contract that he got. Oh, yeah. Do you really give that same thing to Daron Payne? And yet, surprisingly, people say Payne still is the more talented player up there. But I would have said no. I would say you kind of let him walk and you move on and you kind of start to replace him this year and whatnot. But it almost sounds like that there's a good chance that we're going to dish out another $75 million for another D tackle. And it's kind of cool. Then now what do you do about your two ends when you get there? And now, that's good. It already was a very talented, first round pick. A lot of stock was put into that defensive line. Now it looks like they're starting to put a lot of money into it, and that only amps up the pressure, even more. So I'm surprised by it because I don't think that's the route I would go.
Yeah. Now I think meaning I wouldn't be putting all that money in, especially because you have Ioannidis on a team friendly contract. You know what I mean? You have Settle. has one more year left, right?
He's a free agent now.
Oh, he's a free agent now.
He is.
Ooh. So so if you have one of the two, obviously you might go to Daron Payne, but for a friendlier contract, Tim Settle would be the option, and he plays quite well.
Tim Settle's going to get paid this year, and someone's going to get a good player. Yeah, I mean, it's like if we talked about all of the different trade rumors, and it is kind of hard to trade someone who has an expiring contract. You know, that the way Daron Payne would be, because after this year he can walk. So it's kind of hard to just say like, hey, anybody want this guy? Who wants it? Give us a second round pick. Because they're like,
right. We're
going to get him for a season. He might walk. I don't know if I'm going to give you that. But if he was put in with a trade for a quarterback as one of like the players, an idea could be you throw some money at Settle and let Settle come back and hey man, you're gonna start or rotate with Ioannidis, who I think Matt Ioannidis is in his last year of his contract too. Right. And he didn't come back as good last year as what we saw. Maybe that needed another year, because he was not the impact player that he used to be. Matt Ioannidis was our best pass rushing interior lineman, and that was not the case last year.
No.
Yeah.
No, that was that was definitely one of the things that disappointed me coming in, because that was one of the people that I touted earlier. I touted, his contract is great. He's a great install right there. He's perfect for that. And now if Payne and Jonathan Allen need a breather, he could come in and do that. But you're absolutely right. He didn't do it. He didn't show up last year. So he's gonna prove a year this year. We'll see what he's got. And he's got to definitely stay healthy. Coming up to free agency and the draft in the near future, there are a couple players in the draft that we can look into. Is there any direction maybe you'd want to go for cheap at defensive end or tackle on D-line?
You said the word. Cheap.
Cheap, right.
Yeah, cheap. So I looked at a couple ends and D tackles, and I mean, I'm talking about like the AARP of the NFL right now. I'm looking at guys that are like, we're pushing 40. We're definitely in 35 right here. We're pushing 40 on some of them. Basically, I'm looking at guys that are willing to come in here for 1 year. Yeah. They're a veteran. They can still make an impact, but they don't need to play every single down. They don't want to play every single down. But if someone goes down, they can start for a game or two. With Chase, and if Montez is still here, then we've got, they can mentor him a little bit. So at defensive end, the old guys I'm looking at, and we actually named him this guy last year, and he had a good year with Minnesota, Everson Griffin. Yep. Okay. I saw Tampa can't keep everybody, so bring me Mr. JPP and as many fingers and digits as he has. As someone who's come in, it's like, hey man, you just want to, blitz? Okay, come on in.
That's all you need to do.
Right. Now I got another one at defensive end, and man, it's too bad Ab's not here. I would talk to the all-time leader in Washington history.
I was thinking the same thing. Bring him back. Bring him back,
Sean.
baby.
You know where I'm going with this. You say it.
Again, baby. Bring him back. We can get him for super cheap, and I know he'll ball out for us, man. Bring him back, man. I'm telling you.
I'm not saying that he's the difference, but Chase and Montez had a great 2020.
Yep.
They had a bad 2021. Those are the facts.
Yep. There it is.
Ryan Kerrigan was here in 2020. Ryan Kerrigan was not here in 2021. Connect the dots.
Absolutely. I love it. Look, I'm with you. I love those. I love those picks. Everson Griffin, you talked about. We looked at him last year. I mean, if we can get a JPP, maybe a Justin Houston. At 33, a little older. And then you always got to think, if the Bears are stupid enough to kind of not pay Akeem Hicks, I mean, somebody like that to ball out and be good addition to this defense. So, a little on the older side, but we're talking let's pay you right now. Let's get 1 year in. Let's see where we can go from there. But I like that. Anybody in the draft?
Well, I got a couple free agents. Sorry, I got a few more.
Oh yeah.
In the unlikely situation that Daron Payne gets traded and Tim Settle signs elsewhere, I got some old dudes that I would say, like, hey, man, we need some rotational pieces. You want to play a little bit? Like, I'd look at, again, Tampa Bay can't keep everyone. And Ndamukong Suh, do you want to play for a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Gerald McCoy,
oh, yeah.
I think he's maybe in Vegas this year. McCoy started to make that, the final years of your career, you kind of bounce from team to team on one-year deals. Corey Peters and Linville Joseph are two other names that I've seen that, like, come in and again, you're older, so we're not going to let you, you're only going to get 25, 30 snaps a game, but you'll get a chance to be a rotational piece.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I got Sheldon Richardson and Linville Joseph.
Yep.
Now, so both of those, and now Linville's is a little higher on the contract, and Sheldon's only, 3.6, but I honestly think some of those guys for cheaper that maybe older that have played on the team, and they can do, like, they're veterans, they know what is expected from them, come right in, just help on that defense. I think what we need, we talked about for a while that we're very young, and especially on D-line and defense. We need to bring in some, I think, age, some senior maturity to kind of say, hey, all right, let's go. This is the way we're doing it. You know what I mean? How do I talk to the press? How do I, prepare? How do I take care of my body? And, something to move us on. Because this is a key part of our team, that D-line. That is supposed to be like the rock of our team with our studs, with Chase, Chase and Montez Sweat. So, and Payne and Jonathan Allen. So that they need to step up, in my opinion.
I'm with you. All of those guys could use someone who's been there, done it for a while, and comes from another organization too. Like, bring back Ryan Kerrigan, but all he knows is Washington and a year in Philly. Bring someone who's been around other places, maybe who's won other places, and can talk about, hey, you want to have a successful defensive line, you want to have a successful team, this is what we got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, again, like I was saying, in the draft, anybody?
I do. So I've got at defensive tackle, I think we got to go the same route that we did prior to getting Allen and Payne, but some of these, like, core depth guys, rotational pieces, when we picked up Matt Ioannidis in the 5th round and Tim Settle in the 5th round. And I have us going after Jordan Williams of Virginia Tech. Heard some really strong things about him. Let's kind of talk about how he's going to be later in the draft, but he's going to be a good player. So it kind of be basically replacing Settle for another Hokie. There along the interior. Some outside guys I've got Mr. Gamecock, Kingsley Enagbare.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard that he could be around 2nd or 3rd round. He actually impressed me way more at South Carolina than I ever thought. That he really kind of turned into something more. There's two guys. Jermaine Johnson played at Florida State. I think he transferred from Georgia Tech or Wake. He transferred from the ACC to Florida State and played well this year. And then, there's a dude from Georgia named Trayvon Walker. And, if you can go after anyone from Georgia's defense, I'll take a look at him because you're kind of
you're in a good spot.
Right. And then there's one other name that he, again, could be further down in the draft to go for. So I'm not necessarily looking to use high draft capital. He's from San Diego State, named Cameron Thomas. And I just feel anytime these draft guys throw these, like, players up from schools that aren't powerhouses, usually it's because, like, they're showing something. You always see a player from Michigan, from Alabama, from from Florida State. They're always up there as like a draft prospect. But when someone from San Diego State gets put up there high, I'm kind of like, okay, this guy must be able to play. So I don't know a lot about him, Right. Like, I don't know tons about these guys yet. It's kind of still early, but those are kind of some names. It's like, all right, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, could they be there where we can add some depth to develop?
Yeah. Okay. I could dig that. Yeah, no, I Jermaine Johnson, that's somebody I definitely have had eyes on being in the ACC. Honestly, I gotta, I don't know. We would have to probably do it pretty early, but David Ajabo, the other guy of the tandem at Michigan with Aiden Hutchinson. I like his speed. I like his just hunger. He's new and he's fresh to the game. I mean, that would be a good help on the outside. Also, I gotta show love. I gotta show love to my Tar Heels. Where is it, Mr. Tomon Fox, baby? Hey, 6'3", 260. Maybe we can move him inside. Maybe he could be a hybrid guy. Maybe a little biased. Maybe this is the year of the North Carolina. I mean, let's get on with that.
Did he play on the team that gave up like 40 points to South Carolina in the bowl game? Is he on that defense?
All right. Okay. All right. I think he opted out of that game. All right. I think he opted.
That's probably why.
Opted out. Yo, we need to move on. All right.
I got one other idea when it comes to the draft. Okay. Yeah. And Ab, if you're listening to the podcast, this is for you. And this could work with the draft. So we talked about, is Montez Sweat fitting in with the team? And just today they announced that they're going to extend him. They're going to give him the 5th-year option for first-round picks. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it would not surprise me. I would not be shocked if Montez Sweat gets traded.
Ooh.
And
do you have a theory?
I said, I've got a theory. And it would provide a huge hole for us. And I'm not trying to go from Montez Sweat to James Smith-Williams playing 60 snaps.
Yeah.
But I think and I don't think we would get a first-round pick. We're not going to replace what we got for him. But if you were to get a 2nd and a 5th, I would look to get his replacement here in like the 2nd round, someone who's going to be a starter. Like, your guy from Michigan may be gone by then, but maybe at that point we need it. We need to be looking at our first-round pick as another defensive, end. Or we use our 2nd-round pick to replace Sweat. So I'm just kind of curious to see, what happens out there.
Yeah. I'm eager to see. It's gonna be interesting. But so we do have to move on. That is our strength, and that is something that we definitely want to focus our attention on, that D line. But the one